Over the last couple of hours, I've been thinking, I've been hypothesizing, and I've been going through many different scenarios that I can think of. And honestly, there's not really one of them where I understand a reality that justifies Coinbase not relisting XRP. Yes, you heard me right. Coinbase not relisting XRP is by far one of the craziest things that's basically happening right now. Let me get you guys through a couple of cases right now that have just finished, which basically showcase that there's not really any reason as to why Coinbase should not get XRP back on there, really. But before we do that, we need to get some sort of basis. One, Coinbase has a process of identifying whether or not a cryptocurrency is a security, and it involves the SEC. I'd assume they only list a coin after the SEC's basically given a soft thumbs up, or after it's gone through their rigorous sort of appeal process where they go through all these different points, which again is sort of looked over by the SEC, because that's what we saw when they took off XRP. It was advised by the SEC for them to do so, and they only listed XRP in like 2019, which is so late that I'm also thinking their progress for getting the coins listed must be very, very rigorous for testing for securities, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the point that I'm willing to make right here is that not too long ago, there was a case between Coinbase and some people where they basically alleged that Coinbase was letting them transact securities. And also, this is very important, there was a case between the SEC and Library, which is a cryptocurrency company. Now, both of these cases have now finished. So as I just said, Coinbase's lawsuit with these people is over. Library case is over. Let's quickly see actually about this Coinbase case to get some perspective into everything. Now, Coinbase's case, as it sees right here, judge dismisses proposed class action lawsuit alleging Coinbase sold unregistered securities. The customers also accused Coinbase of failing to register as a broker-dealer. You have to understand that Coinbase is going through a multitude of lawsuits along these lines. But generally speaking, I think because of what just happened in the Library case, I don't think Coinbase can be in much trouble because of all of this at all anymore anyway. Why? Well, if we take a look. So we should actually read a little bit further into all this. By the way, I'm not a legal advisor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just doing this for fun. And please prove me wrong in the comment section down below. And please add to my story here to the comment section down below. Please just expand upon this. I've just been doing some research here, and I will not drag this on for an hour. I'm just talking with you guys to whatever I found. And I personally think Coinbase not relisting XRP is ridiculous. But maybe you have a different opinion. Maybe Coinbase has a different opinion. All rights to them, all rights to you. Now, the proposed class action suit filed in New York basically seeks damages arising from the sale or soliciting of 79 digital assets that the consumers say amount to illegal contracts because the platform is not registered with the US SEC. The district judge, Mr. Engelmeyer, didn't make a determination about whether digital tokens were actually securities, unfortunately, though he did assume they were for the purposes of the dismissal request by Coinbase. Had the suit been allowed to proceed, the question of whether they are securities would have been central background, he said, which again was not determined right now. Engelmeyer said the terms of Coinbase's user agreement flatly contradict allegations in the lawsuit that the company holds title to the digital assets that are bought and sold on the exchange. The judge also found that the platform didn't actively solicit investments. The suit alleges that Coinbase promoted the sale of the tokens by providing users with descriptions and their purported value, as well as participating in promotions, giving news updates about crypto price movements, and links to web stories. But Engelmeyer said those activities are a piece with the marketing efforts, materials, and services that courts have determined are not active solicitation. And that is because, I'd say, a judge in a similar court case last April dismissed a similar lawsuit against Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, finding that the claims were filed too late and that US securities laws didn't apply because Binance is not a domestic exchange, despite the fact that much of the infrastructure is based in the US. Now, that part is not so relevant for Coinbase. The most important parts come in this right here, all right? The lawsuit that the company holds the title of the digital assets that are bought and sold on the exchange, and that they don't actively solicit investments. I've been thinking about this for so long. I at first, all right, was always thinking, this Ripple lawsuit is about XRP's initial status. That's one thing. And then it kind of ends because, well, since the SEC didn't go for a preliminary injunction, they didn't stop Ripple's business activities, they didn't really include any XRP action after December 22nd, 2020. Since all that has basically been left out, the only period they're discussing is that period between the inception and the moment of the lawsuit. At least that's for as far as I can understand. That's the only case they're trying to make, because extrapolating it will become extremely difficult. Saying that today's XRP is still a security, that's an uphill battle. And that's why the SEC is always being vague with their wording. But here's where some of the keys come in. One, Coinbase does not have to hold this XRP, but more importantly, does not have to buy directly from Ripple. Meaning that it's not, by that definition, a sale of a security by the company that's being sued for it. They could buy it off of second people, you know what I mean, like secondary market sales, or more importantly, they could let these transactions from other parties proceed, where they only facilitate for the transfer and not actually sell the coin that they bought from Ripple, which again are two very big parts that I already think are good enough on their own, just not buying it from Ripple, and the fact they can facilitate it between parties without doing it themselves, still on their platform. Anyway, there's an argument to be made that that would still put them in the wrong, but then there comes the most important part. Hopefully you guys remembered what just happened, I'd say 2 or 3 days ago to Library. If you guys missed it, what basically happened, what was so important about it, is the secondary sales of Library coin were basically deemed as non-securities. And I think this will extrapolate further to say, for most cryptocurrencies, oh guys, I'm not showing you, sorry, my bad. For most cryptocurrencies out there, I was showing this before by John Dean, and I don't think much more important otherwise. Most of these cryptocurrencies will be put in this category of potentially in some past they were a security, but as of this point, if you transacted with another person, these are not security transfers. And it kind of relates back to Howie, where, what exactly is the security part? The oranges, the orange groves, or the contract regarding the orange groves and the oranges? In this case here as well, it is very difficult to claim that me and my brother, for example, my little kid, pick something, right? It doesn't matter. My aunt, my grandma, my great-grandma, my great-great-grandma, now transacting something, or you and I transacting something, would all of a sudden be a security transaction. And so that's what kind of was figured out in this as well, that the secondary sale of Library coin, well, those guys didn't really have anything to do with Library themselves. And I think the same thing will be said in the Ripple case, because right now, like the ropes have been set for that. Now, if we kind of relate all that back to Coinbase as well, again, it might still take some time for some of these things to become final, but I personally think that in the whole Ripple versus SEC case, that whole department of what XRP is right now is not being argued, albeit that the SEC is trying to pin it in. It's not their main focus, because that's a lot harder than saying that XRP at some point was a security, and that whenever Ripple sells it, that it still might be a security sale. Again, there's two big differentiating factors here. Ripple does not have the same sort of values as you and I transacting something. And for the same sense, if Coinbase utilizes XRP with no connection to Ripple at all, is that then just secondary? Yeah, there's no direct connection with Ripple anymore. For Ripple itself, it's a little bit more difficult, because even though all the XRP is already mined, so there's no more sense of this offering that Ethereum, for example, had in the past and whatnot. Since Ripple does get 1 billion XRP every single month, there is a claim that can be made that this is similar to mining, because there's like a vesting coming out, and since they're selling it to other companies, this XRP, to potentially fund things. Okay, an argument could be made. I'm not saying they would win. I'm not saying the SEC is right, but an argument could be made. But for Coinbase to facilitate these transfers without really involving Ripple whatsoever, knowing now from these previous cases that secondary sales, indeed, at least as far as we know now, are quite fine. That's why Library coin did so amazing. Even though we still have to extrapolate this, and it's not for everything just quite yet. Again, a Fox Business journalist reported that the SEC lawyer involved in the Library lawsuit conceded on the record that the secondary market sales of Library coin tokens do not constitute a security, while attorney stated that the judge talked about an article while he forced the commission to commit on record. As expected, judge ruled that secondary market transactions of Library tokens by people unaffiliated with no investment intent in the Library case are legal, and this could directly set a precedent or precedent for the XRP holders in the long-running XRP lawsuit. I believe that is going to be the case. And again, I want to kind of conclude this real quick. I'm not so sure if Coinbase is going to relist it because, well, they're basically, just little, they're always just looking at Mr. Daddy Gensler, just looking him in the eyes and begging for guidance, mostly on the pitfall of, hey, do you want us to take something off, Dad? Yeah? No? And when Dad is like, yes, take it off, and smacks him in the face, they take it off. When it's like, oh, you better, they kind of like to parade around the lines. Point that I'm trying to make here is they'll probably only relist it when it's completely safe. And even then, Coinbase might never relist it again because, well, otherwise they would have listed XRP on there pretty quickly. And also they would have probably relisted it the moment when they noticed that all this secondary stuff, it's kind of hard to get in trouble for it anyway, because they've been sued many times over for all this secondary stuff. And, well, never has it really come too far because a lot of their terms, they've got the best lawyers in the freaking world, Coinbase. A lot of their terms state that that has nothing to do with them. That's one thing. But also, so many exchanges out there right now are still facilitating the transfer in XRP. And you have to understand, and this is the core principle of everything, as of this point, and that's very important, nobody knows in the US whether or not XRP is or isn't a security. The SEC is alleging something, but about 99.9% of the US, if not more, does not, if you were to ask them right now, know, following the law, if XRP is or isn't a security, because if it was clear, this case would be over within 10 seconds. It's right now being discussed, and that's going to set the standard for crypto going on forward. But with that logic in mind, if Coinbase just never took it off, they could always relay back and say, hey, we can't really be sued because nobody could have known. And the SEC will say, well, you should have known, but since Coinbase also went through a rigorous process to get XRP on the exchange, which was most likely approved by the SEC, it kind of falls flat again of saying, well, but you didn't know. And that's honestly what Ripple's now fighting for as well, by saying, even you didn't know. Otherwise, why didn't you tell us like way earlier if you did know and if it was also clear? So the point being is, I think Coinbase and all these other exchanges should get XRP back on there because it really doesn't make a lot of sense for them to not do that. And I would just like for them to do that. Yeah. I guess I'm also biased, right? Because I think XRP is going to be huge. I'll post another videos soon about what I think is going on here in the background. A lot of cool XRP stuff is happening, and I've not covered that in a long while. But that was it for today's video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you press that like button and maybe put that notification bell on for further updates. And I'll see you guys again in another crypto video tomorrow or some later today, something like that.